Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily. And if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving on to today's first story, which is about OP getting revenge on her jealous colleague, after she ruined the biggest opportunity OP had in her life to become successful. Now story. 6 months ago, I F25 thought I had lost my internship and future career because of my jealous colleague Mona F26. She never liked me and we never got along at work. She wanted to sabotage my work every opportunity she got. So, 6 months ago she poured paint on my dress design to get me fired, but I got her back good. It all started when the boss walked into the design room and told us that she was going to host a fashion show less than a week from then, and she said that the person to impress her the most was going to be sponsored to continue big in their fashion design career. I smiled and whispered to myself, go big or go home. This was my moment to shine. She looked at me and smiled as she turned to leave the room. I've never been so motivated. I started doing sketches of my design because we did not get a lot of time, so we had to work fast. Mona approached me and said, if I were you, I would pack my materials and leave already, because you stand no chance against me, and if you challenge me, I will make you regret it. I felt intimidated for a moment, then I remembered the price of impressing the boss. I stood my ground and said back, I guess I scare you. If I don't stand a chance against you, then why are you jumping around my personal space like a headless chicken? Mona's face changed from egotistical to puppy face. Brian was a meter behind Mona and we both started laughing. Mona left and I continued with my sketches. Brian had my back every step of the way, and I felt good having a strong backbone of a friend and colleague. So, the next morning we all came to work to start our designs. I reached into my bag to get my sketchbook, but I could not find it. I freaked for a second and I got mad, but fortunately, I remembered my design by heart. I went to collect my materials and Mona did not look happy because she expected me to walk up to her and confront her about my missing sketchbook. I did not have time to waste, so I had to work fast and avoid wasting time with her if I wanted my dreams to come true. When I came back to my table, there was the sketchbook, but my design was gone. I wanted to put Mona in her place, but time was just not on my side. I swallowed my anger and put a smile on top, then started with my dress. So far, I looked like the only person who had something to show the boss, and I understood why she smiled at me the previous day when she went out of the room. The day went by so fast, like a sunny day rain, but I stayed at work till late to finish my design because I just could not afford to disappoint my boss. And guess who brought me dinner to make sure I ate? Brian did. He was one caring person and I was so thankful to him. So, when I was finally done with my dress, I put it away in the dressing room and Brian smiled at me and said, I'm proud of you, kiddo. I smiled at him and we both went home. The big day then arrived. Everyone was so nervous and no one else finished their designs, so they all nervously put something together for the sake of the fashion show. I must admit I was also pretty nervous that I kept using the toilet every after 10 minutes. As there was only an hour left, the manager came in and told us to get ready. I first had to run to the toilet to make sure I would not run off stage just to go and pee. I went to the toilet and looked at myself in the mirror and smiled to myself. After I went to the dressing room and what I saw caught me off guard. My dress had paint stains on it and this good for nothing. Mona was the only one in the room at that moment. She smiled, walked towards me and passed me. At that point, I burned with fury and I wanted to destroy everything that came into sight. How could she stoop so low like that? Does she know how hard I worked on that dress? I stayed up at night and would have missed my dinner if it was not for Brian. I ran to the dress and I realized that there was no way to fix it and get it ready for the show in just an hour. I sat on the floor and I started crying. I was so angry at the universe. Why would something like that happen to someone like me? I slowly ran out of hope and I decided to pack my bag and all my materials to go home and maybe drown my sorrow in beer or something. Brian came in and the dress he saw showed him why I had a long face on. He asked me who did that to my dress. I ran into his arms and cried onto his shoulder for minutes. He asked someone to bring me a bottle of water. He finally managed to calm me down and I started talking. I came from the restrooms to dress up and I found Mona in the room with my dress full of paint. She smiled at me and left. What will I do now? Now my career is ruined and the boss is going to be disappointed in me. I continued crying and Brian told me to pull myself together and continued saying, we might not be able to fix your dress, but this is not going down without a fight. If you won't go on to that stage, then neither will Mona, or at least she will not go on that stage in peace. He smiled after, his face gave me a mischievous feeling, and we started planning how to get Mona back for what she did. I could not think of any of her weaknesses because she's like an alligator. Then an idea hit my head. She loves bragging about herself so much that she ends up telling everyone everything about herself. I remembered she once said she was allergic to peptide creams and ointment, what could have been the perfect revenge for peptides. Brian told me to go and steal Mona's cream while he goes to get peptide cream. While Mona was busy bathing, we mixed her cream with peptide cream and put her cream back. I had to keep the sad act going so she could not be suspicious about a thing. Brian pretended to calm me down and another idea came into my head. I guess my dress was not completely ruined. I could use the stains as additional decorations. I just had to add more paint to make it intentional. I couldn't thank Mona enough. While Mona was busy getting ready, I was busy fixing my dress. On the other hand, all I wanted to do was prove her wrong and show her that I very much stand a chance against her. I then hung my dress for it to dry a bit for the few minutes that were left. When it was time, everyone finished dressing up and herded to the hall in nervosity, and I was late because my dress took longer to dry, but I was surely on time to see Mona's downfall. As everyone walked on stage to showcase their designs, the guests started clapping and photographers started taking pictures, but the boss did not look impressed at all. Mona then stepped on stage and started walking down the stage. She managed to put a slight smile on the boss face, but it did not last. As she started walking uncomfortably, her impressive smile turned into a discomfort expression. She then started scratching crazily and uncontrollably, and the walk turned into a jump. She looked like a puppy that ate chili. Everyone busted into laughter and the show turned into a circus. The photographers did not want to miss any detail on camera. The boss, on the other hand, was not happy at all. I could see the disappointment in her face from a distance. I felt bad for the boss, but at the same time, Mona's scratching and jumping were just too funny to ignore. She wanted to tear her dress apart, and as the people laughed even harder, she noticed the crowd and ran off stage. She found the boss standing backstage in disappointment. She was fired right then and there. Mona continued running and scratching to the dressing room to remove the dress. I snapped out of laughter and walked down on stage. The crowd stopped laughing and gazed at me with amusement. The boss came back into the hall fast to see what has caught the audience's attention. There was a nervous and bold me walking down a stage with cameras in my face and a crowd looking at me with impressed faces, and a proud boss smiling at me. I finally started feeling calm when I saw that everyone looked at me in a good way. I smiled even more as I stood in front of the stage for the pictures. I felt like I had made it in life. I knew no one was going to take that moment away from me because I deserved it. I turned to go back and I saw Brian from a mile smiling at me and quietly clapping for me. Then the whole crowd applauded as I walked off stage. I felt majestic and respected. I smiled to myself and a tear of joy dropped. I then went to the dressing room and I found Mona still scratching and so furious. Fear struck me for a minute as Mona walked toward me, but I did not let it get to me. She deserved what happened to her. She started her dirty game with me and she got served. I just gave her a taste of her own medicine. She looked at me with disgust and hatred while I just smiled at her, just for the sake of annoying her even more. She said to me, "Do you realize what you just did? Now my reputation is ruined because of you and my dad is going to be so disappointed in me. I'm not done with you just yet. I will come for you so bad that you wished you have never met me." I proudly said back to her, "I can't thank you enough for the additional colors added to my dress. I nailed it out there and everyone loved it." The boss smiled at me proudly. "You should have seen the way she was so angry at you." I continued to her, "You wanted to sabotage the only opportunity I had to make a name for myself just because jealousy has gotten the best of you. If you had played a fair game, nothing like this would have happened. We would all have had a wonderful show and no one would have cried or scratch danced in front of cameras. You made the mess, so you clean it up. By the way, if you ever think of sabotaging or destroying my effort, I will not hold back to destroying you. I'm not as weak as I look, remember that." When the show ended, the boss came into the dressing room and gave me a tight hug. I was then given a check written with a large amount of money and I could not believe my eyes. I started screaming and Brian joined me. I was so happy I decided to throw a party at my apartment, and everyone came except for Mona, who was probably drowning her embarrassment in alcohol like the spoiled child that she was. We had so much fun that the party ended up being a sleepover with colleagues that were genuinely happy for me. The next day, Mona was in the headlines. I could not stop laughing because the media chose the funniest picture to put in the magazines. I could just imagine her face when she saw the headlines of that day's news. And her father must have been on her case. Poor Miss Big Ego must have been so sad to see her reputation be destroyed by her silly, stupid games. She had no idea how I felt to see my dress filled with paint stains. I had to work extra for that dress, not only to impress the boss but also to continue with my dreams and make them true just like I promised myself. And when I finally blew the audience's hearts and minds, I felt like a princess walking down a red carpet. I have never felt so respected. And it felt even better to know that no one could take that moment away from me, not even Mona. Everyone at work started posting about Mona and making sure that she would never feel superior over others, and that we are all equal at work, whether some are poor and some rich and spoiled like she was. She made us feel like we knew nothing and we were at that company just out of luck and because we deserved to be there. But that day proved to her that people like us work hard to get where we are, and not just be spoiled by parents and spoon-feed us with opportunities. I knew what I wanted and I made sure that no one was going to stop, although I gave up at first because I thought there was no hope for me to remake or fix my dress. Brian believed in me and helped me take revenge on her and put her in the place she deserved. She might have gotten more hatred from me, but as long as she stays away from me and does not interfere in my business, then life will go on smoothly with no drama or fights. Now here is the end of our first story. I hope you enjoyed the revenge OP took on her jealous colleague. It hurts when you work so hard for something and someone just ruins everything in seconds. I felt like OP gave her what she deserves, and it must be satisfying to watch her getting humiliated in public. Guys, I want to know your opinion about this story, and what do you think this story is satisfying to you or not? Please comment down. So before moving to the final story, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories. Now moving to our final story, in which OP took revenge on a jealous Karen who falsely framed OP's sister and called cops on her cousin to cut down her business competition. Now story. Background. My cousin 23F recently opened up her salon. From a young age, she taught herself how to thread, wax eyebrows and developed an interest in makeup and hair. Everyone in our extended family would go to her before events and every month for their threading, waxing, hair, and makeup needs. In 2020, she had a full-time job but decided to renovate the basement of her home to create a small salon space. She now spends her free time taking clients in her at-home salon, and there are nothing but great reviews. Her sister helped with the renovations and now helps her with marketing the business, social media, community pages, and I help with the finances, budgeting, and price setting. We all support her and are proud of her. The salon is our baby. We're now in the middle of a pandemic and this greatly affected her salon business. As a result, she implemented safety measures and our small team made sure to keep up with COVID regulations in our city. This included having one customer inside at a time, doing temperature checks, making masks, face shields and gloves mandatory, wiping down the salon after each client, etc. Also, when our city was in lockdown, the salon was closed as it is not an essential service. Incident. Our city is once again in lockdown from the end of December to the end of January. The salon has been closed since the lockdown began. The salon's social media pages had been updated to let the current clientele know that the salon is closed. Now comes the Karen. Karen sees a community post from October detailing a discount that the salon was having on a certain package we offer. She comments on the post saying that she can't believe the salon is open in the middle of a lockdown when her salon has to be closed. This is important for later. Karen fails to notice that this post was made in October when salons were allowed to operate as long as they followed safety regulations. Karen doesn't bother checking more recent posts indicating that the salon was closed. My cousin doesn't see her reply at this time. The next day, 2 police officers show up at my cousin's door while she was at a doctor's appointment. The officers ask for my cousin and my aunt lets them know that she's not home right now. My aunt does not speak English very well and lets the officers know that she would call my cousin and ask her to come home. Maybe the officers didn't believe her, but they insisted on coming inside the home. My aunt had already called my cousin as she was worried. My cousin asked what it was about, but my aunt didn't know. My cousin then asked if they had a warrant for anything. When she found out they didn't, she told her mom not to let them come inside and that she would be there in about 20 minutes. My cousin began driving home when my aunt called her to let her know that they simply left. Hearing this, my cousin was less worried and decided to go grocery shopping as planned before heading home. Turns out, the officers came back half an hour later and once again demanded to see my cousin. My aunt called my cousin again and asked her to come home, but in the 20 minutes she took to come home, the officers were gone. They had left a card and asked her to call back. My cousin managed to get a hold of the officers and was told that someone had reported her business. They claimed that she was operating during the lockdown and they had proof. My cousin knew this wasn't true as the salon had been closed for quite a while. By now, my cousin had seen the comment from earlier and mentioned that she knew exactly what their so-called proof was, but the post in question was from October. My cousin was very upset as this post was not even close to being actual evidence of her operating now, in January. She was also very upset that they insisted on coming inside the house with no cause or warrant, when they could see that my aunt does not understand the language very well. At the end of the conversation, the police officer apologized to my cousin and we thought it was the end of it. You must be wondering how we know that Karen was the one who called the cops. Well, she told us. The next day, my cousin received a message she realized was from the woman who commented on the post. Karen decided to pretend like she was a customer. Karen, can I book an appointment? My cousin, hey love, we are currently closed due to the lockdown. Once the lockdown is over, we will be more than happy to book you in. Karen, oh my GF was there yesterday, my apologies. My cousin, you must have gotten the date wrong. The salon is not taking clients until the lockdown is over. Thank you. Karen, no problem, but I didn't get the date wrong lol. I also know the police came due to you being open. Take care. My cousin, I'm not going to sit here and entertain your boring life. Maybe for a change, you can find another hobby rather than spreading lies and wasting people's time, including the police's time, or even better, find an actual job. Have a good night. Karen, I own my spa that's closed, as should yours be. My mom is the one who called the cops. You are not entertaining me at all. Go back to your own country instead of ducking with ours. My cousin decided to block her at this point. My cousin was happy this was all over. Her sister and I were still outraged at the racist comment, and how someone could make up lies about a small business that led to the cops terrifying my aunt. When my cousin told me about Karen, the fact that she had her spa stood out, I did some digging. Revenge. Turns out Karen runs her spa out of her house. Doing some more snooping, I found reviews from her clients on her business page that was posted on days that the city was under lockdown. The reviews could be from clients who received services before the lockdown and only now had a chance to write a review. To be sure, I found Karen's Instagram page. I decided to use her trick against her. I created a new account with a generic name and followed her page so she couldn't see that I was related to my cousin. I then messaged her to ask about the prices for her services. Me, hey, I love your pics. I was wondering how much you charge. Karen, hey girl, thank you so much. What service are you after? Me, I'm interested in the BB Glow facial. Karen, that's awesome. My biggest seller for sure. Normally it's $125, but it's on BOGO, so you pay for one session and get two. Me, that's such a great deal compared to others. When is your next available date? Karen, where are you located? I can't have people come to me in lockdown, but I travel to my clients. Karen was not operating from her home location due to lockdown restrictions, but was traveling to her clients' homes, which is still against regulations. I then made up a lie about my home not having adequate space and asked for her address so we could meet up at my friend's place somewhere between her and my locations. She foolishly told me her address. During this time, I also tried joining other community groups that she was a part of. In one particular group, people in the community were promoting their small businesses. She had recently made a post about discounts on her services for January. I immediately went online and submitted a report about her business still operating, including screenshots, her address, full name, etc. A few days passed by and I had forgotten to check up on it, as I was busy with life again. I saw the incident report number on a sticky note I had on my desk and decided to check in. This was not Karen's first offense. Karen had already been fined $750 for having a client in her home during the first lockdown in my city. After being fined, she decided to change her business model and go to the client's home instead. Now, she was fined $10,000. I was still following her on Instagram, so I decided to check it out. She had gone on a rant about how she was going to do very bad things to the person who reported her. She also mentioned that she was no longer allowed to run her business. I'm not sure what type of ban the regional police put on her, but I immediately deleted the account and exited the groups I had joined earlier. At the end of the day, Karen got what she deserved, and I fulfilled my dream of pretending to be Sherlock Holmes. Now, here is the end of our today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Guys, let me know if you had any encounters with such jealous people in your life and what's your opinion about them in the comments section. So before leaving, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories.